All right. Well, here we are, February 11th, 2021. What's going on, everyone? What's going on, Mike?
What's up, Joe? What's up, everyone? How you guys doing? Hopefully, you guys are. If you guys are in the north, you guys staying warm. If you're down in Florida, hopefully you guys are partying hard.
I just realized that our last interview with Ant was our 50th episode.
Wow, 50 episodes since 2019.
It's been crazy times. Even crazier times over the last couple of weeks with Elon Musk tweeting a lot about Dogecoin and getting into Bitcoin. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking all about Elon Musk and Tesla and what's going on in their neck of the woods.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the crypto world. It was like a segue from like GameStop, whole Robinhood thing, and now we're into the crypto situation here, which is starting to look really good. It's actually starting to get more people on board. They don't want to miss the boat. And I think nobody should miss the boat because cryptocurrency isn't just a novelty thing. It's the future. So start adapting.
Yeah. And before we get into it, if you haven't already subscribed, go to our email link, our email list link in the comments. Hit subscribe because we don't think we're going to be doing too much on Facebook anymore. You know, a lot of the censoring that's coming out, and I'm pretty sure we've definitely been downranked in the algorithms because we've seen a drop off in a lot of the engagements that we used to get. So email is the best way to get updates, and then we'll be on YouTube for the time being, and then we'll see what happens from there where we turn up. But you know, if you want to get the content, do it that way. You know, we're going to be bringing on a lot more guests going forward. I think that's something we've talked about. Maybe the next one will be on astrology. We'll see. But
yeah, we want to start talking a little bit about the astrological cycles, since there's a lot of talk about the age of Aquarius, the yugas, right? The Kali yugas and all of that. Business, the economics, history, everything goes in cycles. So we want to take more deep dive into that and talk more about that world. If you look into history, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Mayans, the Egyptians, they were all into the stars and the astrological type of positions of everything. So I think we want to talk more and learn more about that and share it with you guys. So
yeah,
hopefully you guys enjoy that.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. Something else we're going to do now and to kind of switch it up a little bit is bring in some articles, some screen shares. So that helps not only us when we reflect back on these episodes in the journal of the past and knowing more what's going on, but I think it also kind of helps the viewer to stay on track as well. And it helps our conversation. So I'm going to switch over to our screen share mode here. And here we are. This is the latest. So for those of you that are subscribers that don't already know this, as of this past week, this past Monday, it was announced that Tesla had purchased $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And not only that, but they plan to accept Bitcoin as payments for their products. Mike, what did you think when you saw this?
I think it shows what Elon Musk is trying to do with technology, with society, which, all of that. I think he's trying to become a leader. He has a huge following of people. You could call it a cult following. And that following is trying to pull society and the world towards one direction, while other techies are trying to pull it into theirs. So since Elon Musk has a personality that seems a little more, kooky to some, he's a little bit of some people would call him an oddball, others would call him an innovator. You could call him whatever it is, but he is trying to do something that's very different. And I think he looks at Bitcoin as a currency. That's the future. That's going to lead us into something decentralized. And I think it goes back to his whole notion of decentralized everything. If you look into what he talks about a lot is open source, right? He has an open source system where people could go and, tap onto, let's say, a project. Like here in America, we are very protective of patent in our anything that we create, we want to protect because we don't want other people to steal those ideas. So we have, patents and all of that type of stuff, property rights.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, countries like China, they have an open source type of system. So if somebody creates something, that's everybody's. It's not just that individuals. So Elon Musk thinks that that's actually the best way to innovate now going forward. He thinks that the whole idea of keeping a person's idea to oneself is actually a detriment into evolution going forward. So now he's taking that concept of open source, right? So people like you and I, if we're coders, we're whatever it is, and we're going into, we could develop, if you come up with an idea, I could go in and develop more upon that and probably create something even better or different or unique, an add-on, whatever it is. So that concept, he's taking it and he's trying to move that forward with the whole decentralization aspect, right? Same thing with vehicles. He's trying to decentralize the idea of what a car is. He's trying to take it more into it's not only a thing that takes you from A to B, it's a bunch of other stuff. Same thing with crypto, trying to take away from the centralization of currency, right? The US dollar, the euro, the yen, into a crypto decentralized system that you could do a lot with. So I think him doing this just keeps pushing forward that envelope into a new age 3.0 that we're going into.
I think he's definitely a nonconformist.
Yeah, he's definitely a nonconformist. It's like, okay, this is what if you were able to be a nonconformist that was able to have unlimited resources, things that he's doing is pretty much what a nonconformist would do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Think about it, Joe. If you were worth $100 billion on paper and, probably $500 billion with credit, imagine the things you would do. You'd probably be doing things. I mean, I'm not saying similar to him because everybody's unique and nonconformist, not like somebody else. But I'm sure you would be doing things that are not the norm.
Yeah.
And being able to go and buy $1.5 billion in Bitcoin for Tesla and hold on to it as a cash reserve for something else says a lot because other companies are not doing it. But aside from the private sector, we do have public sector that's doing something similar, right? Miami's doing something very similar.
Yeah, and there's these companies in these like Miami, these governments are trying to really separate themselves from the norm as far as investments and returns and trying to branch away from the dollar. But what I found interesting with Elon Musk is, he's been in the payments industry for quite a while now, right? Before this, we were talking about how Elon was a co-founder of PayPal along with Peter Thiel. So, and I think payments I'd read his biography, and he said there was 3 things he wanted to accomplish in life. One was the economy, wanted to contribute to the economy in a way. The second one was renewable energy and electric cars. And then the third one was space exploration and Mars. And so he's obviously a very intelligent guy, and he's very well versed in the payments industry. And, we had a little glimpse into this decision a few weeks back when he tweeted out, he's making tweets about Bitcoin that seemed like he was opening up and warming up to it. And then he put Bitcoin in his bio of his Twitter page something like 2 weeks ago. And now we see him come out with this. But I think it's going to
dog whistles, right?
Yeah. Dogecoin. I mean, dude, I thought the whole Dogecoin thing, I thought he was going to swing trade the Dogecoin Bitcoin pair to make all of his Bitcoin entry. And for those out there that don't know either, Dogecoin, another cryptocurrency, we talked about it in one of the last couple episodes, started off as like this kind of fun little meme coin. Doesn't really have much intrinsic value other than people buying it, and it's known for pump and dumps and stuff. But I mean, he's moved the price on that quite a bit, and that's what CNBC was alluding to here. Where they say he's been credited for raising the prices of cryptocurrencies through his messages on Twitter. But Elon Musk hates the SEC. I mean, he's literally said it in phone interviews and stuff.
After him. They said
Yeah.
that they're investigating him because they're saying that he's influencing markets, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
But the SEC is just a regulatory agency that yes, they have the federal government as power, but they aren't the FTC.
Right.
So
Yeah. So Tesla, I believe right now they're the second. They rank number 2 in publicly traded companies that own Bitcoin. So they purchased, I think, 40,000 plus Bitcoin in this last buy. The company above them that owns more Bitcoin is MicroStrategy, and that's actually a good segue, I think, into the next tab here on the conference that MicroStrategy put out a week ago called Bitcoin for Corporations. So this right here is Michael Saylor. He's the CEO of MicroStrategy. He's also a rocket scientist. And about a couple months ago, Elon Musk had a tweet out there about Bitcoin, essentially joking about it in the beginning. But then Michael Saylor stepped in, this guy, and tweeted, "Hey, I just purchased over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. I can give you a roadmap on how to do it from one rocket scientist to another." And then Elon warmed up to that. Tesla had 3 employees that attended this conference last week, and then we found out a week later that they purchased it. So this is a trend that we're starting to see now with publicly traded companies slowly allocating into Bitcoin because of the risk of inflation that we're seeing now with the dollar, which we've been talking about for more than a year. But MicroStrategy, for example, their stock price is 10x. After they purchased Bitcoin a year ago almost, their stock price has gone up 10x, and they've made something like $600 million off of that investment alone. So this is like something that I'm seeing, like the whole Tesla plays. I think Tesla has already made $300 million off of their Bitcoin purchase because they purchased it down around 30,000, 32,000. So like we're starting to slowly see this creep in now where publicly traded companies gaining exposure, Miami government entities gaining exposure to hedge against the dollar, hedge against inflation, but also for investment purposes. They're making a lot of money off it. But for anyone that wants to actually learn about this event, you can go to microstrategy.com. Again, MicroStrategy, they're a publicly traded company. They put on this they put on this conference specifically for corporations. So Michael Saylor literally pitched to thousands of corporations out there how to buy Bitcoin, how he did it, and how to actually put it on their balance sheet. So you'll see like their first video, like they have Bitcoin corporate strategy with Michael Saylor, and then here you go, Bitcoin corporate playbook, Bitcoin legal considerations, and then he literally walked all these people through all of the different companies that they could use to buy their Bitcoin. Binance, Coinbase, Fidelity, Galaxy Digital with Mike Novogratz, Genesis with the Winklevoss twins, Grayscale, Kraken. So I have a feeling that, we're going to now see a tidal wave of corporate money starting to come into the Bitcoin space. And now that Tesla's done it and Elon has done it, that's a big name. I mean, that's a big company. So I feel like Apple you're going to start to see now, Microsoft you're going to start to see now. Because it's this game theory around Bitcoin. That's one of the value propositions of Bitcoin is that it's got this psychology embedded in it where if one company does it, if one country does it, we all have to do it because we have to stay competitive.
Nobody wants to miss the boat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Nobody wants to miss the boat. But now, a question that I have, where does Ethereum come into play with this, right? Because Ethereum was a big subject amongst corporations looking at the blockchain as a system of development. Now, let's say if Bitcoin keeps moving that forward, then there could be some type of competition there, or I'm trying to see what's the pros and cons with this, how we could benefit, what's going on in that that world.
So they have 2 different use cases, right? So Bitcoin is digital gold. It's the store of value. So it's looked at as more like, your savings, your wealth preservation, your gold. Whereas Ethereum is more of oil. It acts as like oil. So like Ethereum is really, it's the Ethereum virtual machine. So Ethereum is a distributed computer network essentially. So you need Ethereum in order to function on that. So that's where we see now like these decentralized applications are coming out on. And in order to use those applications, you have to use ETH. So I see them being two different use cases. Right now, we have corporations that are focusing on Bitcoin because of the risk of the dollar, the risk of the currency hedge. But you're also seeing them purchase Ethereum as that digital oil. So the oil that's going to function, the Ethereum virtual machine, this new supercomputer that's going to be distributed all around the world. And they are accumulating. Grayscale, actually, so these guys down here, Grayscale Investments. So they have what's called, they have the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. They have the Grayscale Ethereum Trust. So what they do is they purchase Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they have it in a bank, in a vault, in their own accounts. And then they tokenize it into like stock shares, and they allow people to purchase their like stock on the publicly traded stock market, so they can get exposure to the asset but not hold it. So Ethereum's being purchased. Corporations are still talking about it, but right now Bitcoin is more important to them because of, again, the whole currency aspect and inflationary hedge. So I mean, we always talk about it here, Mike, is like, for us, like the ones that I at least focus on: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero. Those are really the top three dogs, right?
And that's great that you mentioned Monero, because I wanted to go into that. So right now, we haven't heard a lot about Monero in the mainstream or amongst corporations or people like Elon. Do you think? I'm hoping that Elon starts talking about Monero because of the privacy aspect. Nobody has been talking about the privacy behind any of these cryptos, and I think that's something that is of everyone's concern. So I'm not sure where's the disconnect that those two things haven't come together. But what do you think is the next move with Monero? You think someone like Elon Musk might start talking about it, or do you think it's going to continue getting buried and be something that's more quiet because it's private?
Yeah, I think we're still so early in crypto, and we're still so early in this like technical transformation. So like I heard, so right now we know that. So Monero, what is Monero? Monero's a privacy-focused cryptocurrency. It's the best privacy-focused cryptocurrency. So with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain is publicly transparent. So anyone can look up a wallet address and see who holds how much Bitcoin, and they could actually trace Bitcoin payments effortlessly, really. Monero, on the other hand, is encrypted end-to-end, and it's got technology in it where it masks all those transactions. So with Monero, you can't tell who has what wallet. You can't tell how much Monero has been sent to each other. It's completely transparent. And the IRS has actually put out a bounty of $600,000+ for anyone that can crack that blockchain, the Monero blockchain, and trace it. So I'm viewing Monero right now as, yes, it's still in the limelight. Yes, it's still important, but just like Bitcoin a few years ago, before it took mainstream light and its value wasn't really known yet, right? It took time for that value to become noticed and aware. And I think the same thing is happening with Monero, because it's not going to take until people start realizing that their Bitcoin is non-fungible, that unless you go out of your way to make sure that your Bitcoin is scrubbed and that you've cleaned up your trails and everything, your Bitcoin is not fungible. So like it is, someone can trace it. And until that's known, you won't really have that much focus in Monero. But with that being said, Monero's use case, the blockchain itself, has higher transactions. There's more transactions happening on a daily basis. There's more adoption happening on a daily basis. Its hash rate, so the miners, it's going up. So there's more miners coming on the network on a daily basis. And if you look at its use case, Monero is the only cryptocurrency being used on darknet marketplaces right now. Bitcoin is not being used in the dark web. And, some people might look at that and say, well, these are criminals or whatever. But like the way I look at it is, criminals always lead technology, right? So like when I want to look at what technology is going to be valuable going forward or what's going to be important, you always look to what these criminals are using. So for me, the fact that Monero is the only currency being used in the dark net right now validates its use case, validates it works. And also the fact that the IRS can't track it, trace it, and they have a bounty out almost for $1 million is proving that it works. I think there's a shakeout happening right now. There's a lot of scare tactics.
Well, think about this, Joe. You were just mentioning about the being, criminals use it, but we have to understand that we live in a global society. What we call criminals here are not criminals elsewhere, or what we don't think are criminals here are criminals elsewhere. What is criminal? Think of it. If you're a citizen in Hong Kong, right, or you're a citizen in China, and you're trying to transact, but the Chinese government doesn't allow you to do certain things, or you're in Iran or you're in Venezuela, they use currency differently there because of their governments. So this is why a privacy coin in many places becomes so significant. Now, they want to do a blanket term that is criminality. Yes, sure, criminals use everything. Criminals use cars, but privacy is key. Look at Signal. Signal is pretty much a system where you could communicate with others through text that is encrypted, so that nobody is pretty much spying on your conversations. And yeah, criminals started to use that more, but it's not. People think it's just drug dealers. No, it's not just drug dealers. These are people. A lot of these people are being persecuted in their countries, and they need ways around that to protect themselves and their families. And this is why encryption is so necessary. And look at our situation here in America, where we're becoming more censored, when we're spied upon even more, where there's a lot of exploitation going amongst society. We need these types of systems, and I think that's why Monero is going to be a big deal. It will get scrutinized by the U.S. government and by other governments. But they are doing the same thing with Signal. They haven't succeeded yet. So what does that say? There's still things there. We are in the beginning, like you said, Joe. I think there's still a lot going on, and we want to make sure we know what's going on and that we're able to tap onto this.
Yeah, absolutely. And privacy with money is important. I mean, if you look at dollars, right, that's what Monero really is. It's like you can't, with cash, you can't trace physical cash. And this is becoming a human rights issue. Money needs to stay totally fungible because of what you're talking about, like all the human rights issue and stuff. So I think, and then to your point too, with the privacy focused issues, the world that we're moving in, privacy is going to be a big deal. There's a reason that Signal had such a high percentage of users that came online over the last couple of weeks here. So I feel like the Monero value propositions in the use case are just going to take a little bit of time for people to understand. But from what I've heard and from what I've read, there's already a lot of companies and a lot of high net worth individuals in the world that don't want their money on a blockchain that can be tracked and traced and monitored. They're going to look for something that is truly fungible, that's private, because, think about it from a corporation's perspective. Does a company really want the ability for Joe Schmo to look up how much they have? Or like your employer, do your bosses really want their employees to know how much their boss is getting paid and how much everyone else is getting paid? It turns into this weird little dystopian kind of tracking and tracing and stuff,
Yeah, and not only that, competitiveness, right? Imagine if, I'm trying to compete. I'm Elon Musk. I own SpaceX, and I'm competing with Jeff Bezos and his orbit, business. And if you could see where I'm investing my money, what I'm buying here and there, it's like, well, then you could compete against me even better because you know what my moves are.
Right.
You could see my next steps.
Yeah.
And so the competitiveness, you lose some with that.
Yeah.
So,
we cover, we support both Bitcoin and Monero here because they're both Bitcoin was the first. It's the disruptor. I still look at it as the king. But the fact is that there are privacy issues with Bitcoin right now. Monero fills the place with that. And I think real quick, now that we're on this, I just want to provide a solution for people with Bitcoin to actually scrub their Bitcoin. So if you do have Bitcoin and you do want to actually prevent the ability for someone to trace your transactions because that's a right for you to do. You can use what's called they're called mixers, coin mixers. So Samourau Wallet is one of the best privacy-focused wallets. You can come to samouraiwallet.com, and if you come down here, there's a product called Whirlpool. Okay, here you go. So break the link of your Bitcoins in their prior history and stop blockchain analysis in their tracks. So Whirlpool is an implementation of a coin join. So coin join is actually what it's referred to. And what a coin join is what you do is you'll, in the app, in the Samourau app with your Bitcoin, you'll click like start Whirlpool. And what it'll do is your Bitcoin goes into a transaction with a bunch of other people's Bitcoin, and they just get scrambled around a bunch of times in transactions. And then all of you get the same amount of Bitcoin back that you put in. The benefits to it is that if anyone is trying to track your payments, they'll get to that point where you Whirlpooled it, you coin joined it, and there'll be so many different transactions that they can't accurately actually trace it anymore. So after it comes out of the coin join, after it comes out of the Whirlpool, it's like it's fresh Bitcoin. So you want to make sure that after you use a coin join or after you use the Whirlpool from Samourau, you have a Bitcoin wallet that isn't linked to your identity. It isn't linked to any of that KYC information like the exchanges. And then that can be considered Bitcoin that's not traced, not tracked, it's clean. And so this is a way around, chain analysis and a lot of the government tools that are being used right now to track people. So,
Joe, if you have, let's say, Bitcoin and, all right, people have Bitcoin and Coinbase and all of these other types of sites, Kraken, then how would you go from like Coinbase, get your Bitcoin and take it out from there and do exactly what you said?
Yeah, so I would download a separate Bitcoin wallet from like Samourau or another app where you don't have to provide your identity to create that wallet. So by doing that, you now create a Bitcoin wallet that's not linked to your personal identification, right? That address isn't linked to you. And then what you should do is you should download the Samourau app, send your Bitcoin from Coinbase to the Samourau app, Whirlpool it inside the Samourau app, and then once it's done with the Whirlpool and the coin join, then send it to that new wallet that you created that's not linked to your identity. And then you should hold it there. And then that's considered clean Bitcoin from there.
Nice.
Or you get the Cake wallet. You get the Cake wallet for Monero, and you just send your Bitcoin to the Cake wallet, have it converted into Monero inside the Cake wallet. There's a feature where you just click transfer and then just transfer it back to Bitcoin, and then it's clean. Because when you buy Monero with your Bitcoin, the Monero blockchain can't be traced, so the transaction gets lost. It does the same exact thing. It's just two different tools. Yep. But this is good. But I think we can, Mike, maybe we'll even do some separate videos just on this, like how to clean your crypto properly and stuff like that. I think in the future that would be really good. But turning back to Tesla, though, let's talk about another topic with Elon Musk and Tesla. Now that we're on that, some new products that are coming out from him. So the first one is Starlink. Starlink is a product that was just announced by Tesla, or actually SpaceX, this past week as well. So what they're doing is they're creating the ability for people to use these Starlink antennas here on Earth that will connect to the satellites that are roaming around Earth that will have high-speed, low-latency broadband internet. So picture like what we hear with 5G, where there's no lag. It's just like boom, boom, instantaneous connectivity. That's what Starlink's going to be.
Joe, do you think that Elon Musk is trying to create his own system? Right? There's a whole conversation going on, right? With 5G, it's being controlled. A lot of 5G is actually being managed by China, and then at the same time, with Bill Gates, he has a lot of software technology and hardware and a lot of investments with different type of companies around the world that are going to be managing the data collected through these 5G satellites. And there's a bunch of stuff right behind this one system. And I'm sure, and also Microsoft has its own AI that they're developing, and Amazon has theirs, which is pretty much based into this network system, right? We have this huge global network system under this, being powered by 5G and, this cloud-based system amongst, Alphabet with Google, Amazon, China has, Alibaba, and there's all these corporations that have their cloud spaces, all that stuff, right? And then I'm seeing Elon Musk going and he's trying to create his own parallel system. It goes back to Tesla, Edison, DCAC. It seems like there's that thing going on here, right? With this, you could get away a bit from the 5G network independently. Obviously you won't be totally independent because now you'll be in Elon's world with his whole system. But it seems like that's what's going on here.
Yeah, it brings up a good point because we know telecommunications, right? Like the competitors right now are the Qualcomms, the Huawei's, like AT&T, and they're powerful. Verizon, they're powerful companies. I think the saying is, the country that owns the telecommunication network owns the world, right? They're typically like the world power, and the U.S. has definitely had that stance over the last X amount of years, and that's a big debate right now with China, right? Is that Huawei they're leading in 5G and 6G. They've even talked about they're pumping out now 6G. So they're a world leader. So if Elon Musk can create a competing system, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power there. So I think he is I think that there's new, we heard about in the past, mesh networks. I think we've talked about. So, you have the ability to create what they call mesh networks where you could set up a separate network on top of or underneath the Qualcomm or the Huawei and function on your own. He's doing this on a larger level from space. So to answer your question, yes, I think that's going to happen. I think the interesting thing is going to be to see how many companies get on board with this and how fast and who's adopting what. So am I going to adopt Huawei's 5G or is Elon's Starlink faster for me? And then I think maybe that's where we'll see that battle come out. But it's incredible,
he could do it. He did it with Tesla.
Yeah, he did it with Tesla. And he controls SpaceX, which is the company that's putting the satellites in space. So I mean, Huawei's not doing that. The Chinese aren't doing that. They have their space program, but it's not on SpaceX's level, I don't think.
No, it's not. The only one is, Blue Origin that Amazon has, which is going to be interesting because we don't see a lot of talk behind there. So I think there's a lot of secretive stuff going on behind what Jeff Bezos is doing. And he stepped down. He just stepped down recently from CEO.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So that's going to be very interesting what he's going to be doing next.
Yeah. See, this is a cool, you go on this homepage, so you guys can go to starlink.com to check this out. But you see, they're already talking about the use case. So ideal for rural and remote communities. Finally able to use the internet like a regular person. So it's interesting because people like us that live in the cities and stuff, we have the ability to use the internet because the infrastructure is here. It's built. But if you're living out in rural America, out in the Midwest where you have a town of 500 people or 1,000 people, you're probably not getting good internet connection because there's not the fiber optic lines. There's not the same amount of satellite connectivity. So we'll definitely stay on top of this one. I think going forward, it'll be interesting.
This is going to really take off because, I think a lot of us always think in the American sense of this type of technology, but this technology will really succeed very well in places like Africa, right? When we talk about Africa, we talk about how Africa is one of the continents where more people transact using their phones than America or North America does, right? Because the way their infrastructure is, it's not that good. So being able to use their cell phones to do everything is just something that they've been really ahead of the game. And I think something like this will work better in places like that. And those are growing economies. The fastest growing economies and populations are in Africa, Southeast Asia, Western Asia, Latin America. So this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah. You know, a cool thing on top of this is now that he's into Bitcoin, this is going to get interesting, I think, for even Bitcoin, because up until this year, there's a company called Blockstream. Blockstream has been putting up satellites into space on SpaceX rockets for a year now. So this is like when people ask me, like, okay, Joe, what happens when here we go, Blockstream satellite. What happens when there's no internet connection? Bitcoin's not going to be able to work. It's going to go down. No, that's not going to happen, because for years now, Blockstream has been putting satellites up in space, so you don't even need an internet connection anymore to send Bitcoin transactions. So even if the internet goes down, the infrastructure is still set up for us to be able to send and receive Bitcoin payments globally. So I'm almost curious, now that we're talking about this, if he'll pair up with Blockstream and they'll start doing more of this stuff, even for Bitcoin support.
Who created Blockstream? That's interesting. I actually never heard of this company.
Yeah, so it's Samson Mao is the CEO, and Adam Back is also one of the founders. Adam Back is, these guys are early Bitcoin OGs. Adam Back was one of the core Bitcoin developers after Satoshi. And Adam Back actually created one of the early forms of eCash. He's a cypherpunk, so he was a part of the whole cypherpunk movement. He created Hashcash, I believe. So his technology is actually Satoshi. What all Satoshi did when he created Bitcoin is he took a lot of these old projects from the past, put them all together in a way that worked, and then he launched it. And Adam Back's Hashcash is actually included in the Bitcoin white paper, I believe. So Adam Back and Samson Mao, they're Bitcoin OGs. These are like old school cypherpunk guys. They created Blockstream, and they've been supporting Bitcoin and the Bitcoin infrastructure ever since. So definitely, I would check them out too. They create a lot of cool products. But the satellite stuff is what I'm interested in now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, this is super interesting, because now that we're talking about all this, right? And going into this dystopian society that I call dystopian, in my opinion.
Yeah, here's their coverage.
I always talk about wanting to, get off that grid. This seems like a way to get off the main grid, in a way. I know you're on another person's grid, and I'm not trying to say, I don't know what are Elon Musk's motives and anything like that, but I don't like the situation we're in when it comes to whatever grid it is we're in. We're using Google for everything. We're on, Verizon and Huawei's networks through their 5G, governments watching, all this shit's going on. And then you have something that Elon Musk is setting up. You have, satellite technology. You have internet that's pretty much off that grid.
Yep.
Also, you could be off the electrical grid with a lot of this technology as well. There's a lot of stuff that you could do. I'm starting to see a trend here.
Yeah.
What he's doing. I'm starting to see something. And it's interesting to me because it does give us an alternative here.
Yeah.
Whatever alternative, I'm liking that alternative. I don't know where it's going, but I'm liking that alternative more than the one that we're currently on, because I'm very frustrated with the situation we're in.
Yeah, I think it does give us hope, because there are people out there that are seeing the problems and they're trying to develop the solutions to the problems. But we're so, with the whole internet, we really are so early on it that we're probably just seeing the first phases of innovation and disruption and problems, and then I'm hoping that going forward we start seeing these new layers of solutions to those problems that existed. Because even a lot of people think that Internet 3.0, blockchain, is going to add more privacy into the internet, what we had, new solutions and stuff. So I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you. But it's good to see this. But if anyone wants to check out this website too, blockstream.com, you can actually get a satellite kit here. So if you want to run a Bitcoin full node, you want to run an actual copy of the Bitcoin network at home, you can come here to Blockstream and you can purchase one of their satellite kits for $400. It's out of stock right now. And you can set this up in the back of your house, and you can literally just beam. So all your Bitcoin transactions won't be going over the internet; they'll be going off of these satellites. So it's kind of cool. You can contribute to the network.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So this is actually good for privacy, because this is, if you want to stay really private with your Bitcoin, if you're hardcore about that, this is what you should be doing. You should be having a full node. You should be linking up to the Blockstream satellite network. You should be coin joining all your shit to make sure it's not traced. Good stuff with these guys. Now, Mike, this all leads us, though, to the final conversation here, and I think we're both on the same page of it, but AI, artificial intelligence, right? Because this is kind of the next frontier of all of this connectivity, all of this satellite connectivity, the 5G, the 6G and stuff and the neural networks is leading us to AI. And you introduced me to this product that Elon Musk has also put out recently called OpenAI. I'm not so much caught up on this. I know you are. Can you give us a one-over of what this is?
So pretty much for the past couple of years, Elon Musk has been trying to figure out a way of controlling AI or having an alternative AI system. Something that, pretty much brought up in a conversation that he also had with Jack Ma, right, with the whole debate of where AI should be going and how we should protect against it. Elon Musk is he's scared of it for society because he thinks that in the wrong hands, or, if it's not regulated a certain type of way, it could overpower us, similarly to, like Terminator, right? The movie. Now, you have others that believe that AI should have its own type of system, and, Google's developing this whole thing with quantum and all of that. Now with OpenAI, pretty much the AI system is doing it's teaching itself the way AI does, but now it's on a level, it's called GPT-3. Pretty much the AI system has accumulated so much wealth of knowledge, it's been able to it's generations ahead in knowledge that even humans have not tapped into. It's on a base that it could generate forms of expressions equally to that of a human, and it could do computations way ahead of humans. There's a bunch of things that this thing is doing. So, there is a type of fear that we are heading quicker into this, AI world that many people are worrying about will take over society. So there's so much in here to actually explore.
Yeah. So this has been a big deal in the past, because we always said like AI up until this point was clunky, but the expressions are interesting what you bring up, because it's always like, well, what separates humans from the AI right now? It's the whole like personality and expressions and like logic, right? Like actually like thinking not so much in a programmable sense, but from a consciousness point of view, from like I have emotions and feelings and I can make a decision based off that. Whereas like the AI and the computers aren't on that level yet where they can't do that yet, right? But now we're seeing, like, you showed me some text where like you read it and it looked like it would have just been another human kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, like an iRobot. You had iRobot, you had that AI technology pretty much almost thinks for itself. Almost, right? This is that. And we have that now.
Yeah.
And it's only like Moore's law. Every day it's freaking compounding its intelligence and it's maximizing everything it can. And that's where we're at right now. It's literally, it could come up with, you could ask it any questions and it'll come up with its own solutions, its own questions, its own answers. Now, if you empower a robot with this intelligence on a system, that robot could, let's say we were on an Oculus, right? If we're on an Oculus and we're in this virtual world, we could have, there's people on the Oculus that you could interact with. There are people, and they, you could transact with them. Now, if you have an AI technology like this in the form of a avatar on an Oculus system.
Yep.
If there was let's say you are on this Oculus and I am also on this Oculus, and you or I you're talking, and then this other avatar comes up, it could talk with us, and we do not know if it's actually a person or an AI, because this AI is so sophisticated that is able to communicate with us like a regular person. That's where it's at right now.
Yeah,
and it's only getting more intelligent. So,
dude, well, he
how
said
can you compete?
Yeah,
how can you compete? It could take over jobs like lawyers, doctors. It's on that level. So,
and because
and
it's a big deal because like the world is being dematerialized through technology, right? And so that means that jobs are becoming dematerialized. There's not really much to do in the material world other than physical jobs, right? So if work is online and all these different types of jobs are online and it's digital, you now have this piece of AI or a computer that can then replace the human and then do all the jobs for them. We got to do this. Future is going to look really, really interesting. Like I think we you and I try to do it all the time. We try to think about what that world looks like. I don't even know if we can't even fathom, I'm sure.
We can't fathom because look, I just learned about this recently, and I did not know that we were on that level. I had curiosities about like where quantum is with Google, and I'm sure it could probably be at an equal level, or even more sophisticated than this. I don't know, but there's many AI systems right now being put into practice and being developed that we have no idea of how sophisticated they are.
Yep.
All it would take, what's slowing this progress down is infrastructure. That's the issue we have.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. That's why, like right now, if we didn't have a lot of regulation and pushback and all that, I'm sure we would be like at a freaking like 10G right now.
Yeah.
If we were like by 10G, something like that, AI would be everything. The infrastructure is not there yet. But while the infrastructure is being built, there are ways around it, which is why like we're talking about OpenAI, we're talking about Neuralink, we're talking about Skylink, all of these things Elon is building independently to have this progression and this. He's trying to be ahead of the game. Right. He's trying to be ahead of the game. And then you have other competitors that are doing their own thing, or they're actually together. A lot of these companies, they were working together. You have Microsoft, they're working together with a lot of these huge corporations, and they're pulling their resources in. That's why they're pushing policy the way that they are, because they're trying to. Whoever could control this will be the leader of the world. That's what people have to understand. It comes to power. It comes to whoever has, the finger on the trigger, whoever can pull these levers is going to be the all-powerful person in the world or universe, or whatever it is you want to call it. So there's going to be a lot of competitiveness with this, and we're seeing it. We're not understanding it that well because there's a lot that we don't know. But we're starting to really process this. Right now, we're talking about this. This alone, 10 years ago, was science fiction.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
10 years ago, this was science fiction.
Yep.
20 years ago, we're talking about, we didn't even know if the internet was going to process 2000 because of the zeros and ones, right? That's what we were afraid of.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about AI doing its own thing.
Yeah, it all links in. I mean, everything we talk about kind of comes together. And it's funny how he's doing he's piecing together all the pieces from the AI to the satellites that provide the ability to connect down and broadcast latency, resistant communication transmissions. Neuralink, if you haven't looked that up, to connectivity to the brain.
Yeah, look what happened with Neuralink. You have a monkey recently connected with Neuralink, and it's pretty much doing its own, game type of it. The monkey is able to interact with thought. That's crazy. Yeah,
it's incredible. And I mean, I guess the last thing would be the quantum computer, right? That would probably be the last key to all of this. Quantum computers.
Literally, you're pretty much taking the resistance off of technology
Mhm.
because there's a lot of resistance because you have the zeros and ones and there's like a tunnel. You know, you can't. There's only so much data you could push through, but with quantum you don't have that issue because now you don't have zeros and ones.
Yeah.
There's no form. You know, it becomes like an infinite. You know, it becomes.
Dude, it's incredible. Like, look at it right here: understanding the brain, and then interfacing with the brain, and then engineering with the brain. It's incredible.
That is crazy.
It's all right here,
crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, man. All right, I'm gonna come back to our other window.
Man, you know, love him or hate him, Elon Musk is doing some wild stuff.
Yeah.
Wild stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, him going with Bitcoin, you know, sky's the limit with that because, like we're saying, let's say our hypothesis is true that he is literally trying to get off that grid, he's trying to make something independent, then, you know, currency is important. You don't want to be centralized in one type of currency like the dollar, especially, you know, fiat currency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would want something decentralized because then that takes power away from the centralization of governments and organizations. So, you know, Bitcoin would be something that would do very well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how going forward he's going to use that with all of these systems. With, you know, imagine Neuralink and blockchain technology with crypto. How would that work? That's something.
Can I think and pay you? Like, here's $5, Mike. Or like, here's 100 Satoshis, 100 sats, and then it's just like streamed to you. That was one thing that Michael Saylor had said to him, or Robert Breedlove, because they were talking about how like Bitcoin is frictionless, but it's what did they say? It can be streamed, so like Bitcoin can be streamed across time, and also, it's got saleability across time and like to other planets essentially. Because think about it, like money right now, like cash, gold, you know, you can't take it with you from here to Mars, but you can take Bitcoin with you. You could stream that. You know, that's a transaction that can be brought with you kind of thing. And I thought that was interesting because it's like, you know, if we're going to be colonizing other planets, what form of currency do you use there? You know, maybe it's Bitcoin. I don't know.
But it has to be crypto.
Yeah.
It can't be, obviously, even if fiat wasn't fiat and it was backed by dollars, by gold, still, you couldn't do that, like you were saying. There needs to be an infrastructure of transaction of dollars. And, you know, it's not, you know, I think people still are disconnected, not understanding that the zeros and ones that you see in a bank account, it's not the same thing as cryptocurrency. It doesn't operate the same way. And I think that's where people are stuck at. So once people actually start figuring out that cryptocurrency works differently and more effective than the zeros and ones you see in a bank account, and that is totally different, then I think people start adopting it a little more freely.
Yeah, but absolutely. And I got to do the plug. Forgot to do the plug. I'm going to do the plug real quick. You guys like what you're hearing and you want to learn more, you can head over to thenonconformist.io. This is our website, and you could subscribe there as well. You can find all of our past episodes. It's going to be episode 51. It'll be cool once we hit episode 100, I think. But we also have links to the crypto section where you can learn about Bitcoin, learn how to buy, sell Bitcoin, store properly, learn a little bit about us, and you can get in touch with us there.
Yeah, go back to our first episodes, you know, listen to those and see, you know, the conversations we were having at that time and what we're talking about, you know, oil, currencies. This is, you know, almost 3 years ago. Yeah, and now look at where we're at. I think it's pretty interesting. So,
and if you've been listening, Bitcoin's almost at 50,000 now, so hopefully you would have caught some of that growth. And if not, it's not too late because 50,000 is still cheap, 100,000 is still cheap, 200,000 is still cheap. This dollar is going to inflate. So, you know, dollar denominated. I like to remind people this. 0.28 Bitcoin. 0.28 Bitcoin puts you in the top 1% of holders around the world. So use that as a reference. So what that means is that if this does become a reserve asset and this is a currency of the future, if you have 0.28 Bitcoin, that puts you in the top 1% of wealth globally in today's dollars. So when you start referencing off of Bitcoin holdings off that, you start to notice that even if you have 0.05 or 0.01 Bitcoin, that's still putting you, right now, it's still putting you in the top tier of wealth around the world. We're just so freaking early on it. It's going to take a few years to actually grow in market cap and size, but we're still so early that, you know, it means something. And so for whatever it's worth for anyone that's listening out there, because I always have people say like, oh, I missed the boat. Oh, it's still too late. No, it's not. It's not going to be too late for years kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. People are looking at this like a stock, as a shares, and it's not as currency. Okay, so, you know, it's like if you want to buy a Kuwaiti dinar, you need $35 for that. Okay, so, you know, you look at it's a currency. Why is one Kuwaiti dinar worth so much? There's a reason for that. Same reason why Bitcoin's worth so much. So it's not a share. It's not, you know, you're not buying a share that's worth $2,000 like Tesla share. It's not the same thing. It's not going to get split. That's not how it works.
Right. Yeah. So that's going to be it, man. All right.
Cool.
We'll catch y'all next week then. Peace, everyone.